If you've just started Gothic 1 Remake and already feel like the game isn't going easy on you for even a second, relax, you're not alone. The beginning can be brutal, especially if you choose the wrong weapon and end up suffering much more than you should. That's why today I'm going to show you the 10 best early game weapons that truly change the way you play, whether in direct combat or while exploring the map with more security. And look, some of these really surprised me when I tested them. I'm Matthew, and the video is about to begin. Alright, I know what you're thinking. Seriously? A pickaxe? But listen, when you've just dropped into this penal colony and have absolutely nothing in your hands, anything that can deal damage is a blessing. And the pickaxe is exactly that. The first weapon that falls into your lap right after you leave the mining tunnel. It wasn't made for combat, but the game doesn't care about that. Here's the thing. In the first few minutes of Gothic 1 Remake, you are literally the weakest guy in the colony. No sword, no bow, nothing. Then this pickaxe appears. Heavy, crude, looking like it was used to dig rock. Because it was. But it hits. And hitting with something is better than hitting with your hand. The real problem is that it's slow as hell, and its damage is pretty mediocre compared to any dedicated weapon you'll find right after. This means it has a very small window of utility, like that plastic knife you use when you don't have a real one. Does it work? It works. But you'll want to swap it out as soon as you find the first sword on the way to the old camp. In the end, the pickaxe takes 10th place because it exists in a very specific vacuum. The first few minutes before you get anything better. It has no style, no charm, it won't make you feel powerful. But it represents that humble beginning that Gothic has always known how to create. You are nobody, with nothing, in a place that doesn't want you there. And you're going to have to work to get out of it. The old sword takes 9th place in your ranking for being a weapon of modest damage, 12 damage requiring only 8 strength, but it stands out as the great initial fixer for the first moments of the game. Its main advantage is the low strength requirement, allowing you to use it immediately without needing to level up your character, which helps a lot in fights against juvenile scavengers and mole rats in the starting area. The location of the old sword is quite specific and easy to remember. It is found on the ground, below a hanged body in a dead tree down the game's initial canyon. To grab it safely, you can let Diego handle the 2 juvenile scavengers that guard the area before approaching the tree. It is practically the first weapon you find on the entire journey, positioned right before reaching the old camp. In the context of the ranking of the best weapons for the beginning, the old sword is in 9th, because despite being accessible, it has lower damage than other initial options like the Lurker's Bite or even the Shortbow you get from Drax. The Lurker's Bite is considered one of the best rated early picks for having better damage and being in a free chest in the cave near the entrance to the new camp. Despite being in 9th, the old sword remains valuable for starting because you don't need to spend resources or complete quests to get it, just explore the natural path. It is a transition weapon that serves well until you get better equipment like the Bloodfly Stinger from Lefty or the Steel Tongue from Bal Parvez. For a player who wants a safe, uncomplicated start, it is reliable, even if it isn't a powerhouse. The Shortbow fits very well in 8th place because it isn't just an okay early weapon, it opens up a totally new way to play right in the first few minutes. For me, this already puts it above several simple melee options, because being able to attack from afar changes the rhythm of fights and significantly reduces the risk in difficult encounters. What I like most about it is the sense of freedom it brings. With minimal dexterity requirements, it becomes the first truly reliable projectile weapon, so you aren't stuck just trading blows with beasts stronger than you in that tight beginning. This makes a big difference when the game is still testing you with annoying and aggressive enemies. In practice, the Shortbow is especially important against threats that are too bothersome early on, like bloodflies. Instead of entering direct combat and exposing yourself, you can deal with them with more control and security, which makes exploration much less frustrating. It's the kind of weapon that might not look impressive on paper, but it greatly improves the quality of your start. That's why I put the Shortbow in this position. It isn't the strongest in the ranking, but it is probably one of the most useful for stabilizing your initial progression. It doesn't win on raw damage, but on versatility and the real change it causes in the way you face the world. At the start of Gothic 1 Remake, that is worth gold. The Rider's Bow takes 7th place in your ranking because, for me, it is that weapon that transforms how to deal with groups of strong enemies, like the wolves of the colony. It is not just a stronger bow than the Shortbow, it is a bow with improved accuracy at medium distances, which makes the difference when you need consistent shots and not just a lucky hit. What I like most about it is the ability to use the bow as a crowd control tool. With the Rider's Bow, you can attract the attention of one monster at a time, even when you are surrounded by large packs. This allows you to ask the wolf to come alone, while the rest of the group is still lagging behind, and thus you avoid multiple combat in the beginning, which is what kills novice players the most. This single target pull mechanic changes the gameplay quite a bit because you gain time to position yourself, dodge, use the terrain, and even retreat if you need to. Instead of running and throwing yourself in the middle of the wolves, you play more intelligently, control the flow of the fight, and don't depend only on raw force or perfect dodging. I put the Rider's Bow in 7th not because it is the weapon with the highest damage, but because it opens up a much safer and more elegant strategy for the beginning of the game. It balances damage, accuracy, and tactical utility well, and that makes all the difference when you are still learning the combat rhythms of Gothic 1 Remake. The Field Bow takes 6th place in your ranking because, for me, it is one of the weapons that most values dexterity builds right at the beginning of Gothic 1 Remake. As an intermediate hunting bow, it already causes very good range damage, which scales directly with your dexterity attribute, meaning that every point invested in this attribute brings real and immediate return in combat. What I like most about it is the sense of control it gives. You can kill monsters before they even manage to run to you. This completely changes the dynamics of the fights at the start, because you don't need to expose yourself, run, and dodge constantly. You play more safely, maintaining distance and eliminating enemies efficiently, without needing perfect dodges. This advantage has an important economic impact. Killing enemies before they get close consistently saves healing potions. At the beginning of the game, when resources are scarce and you don't yet have a stable income, this is huge. You start to depend less on purchases and miraculous saves in the middle of a fight, which makes the progression much smoother. I put the Field Bow in 6th not because it is the weapon with the highest absolute damage in the ranking, but because it is extremely effective for those who want to follow a dexterity route from the beginning. It balances damage, attribute scaling, and practical utility well, and that makes all the difference in the initial progression of the game, especially for builds focused on agility. The Shortsword fits very well in 5th place in your ranking because, for me, it is the first real leap in quality that you feel leaving the weak weapons of the prologue. It is a light weapon with basic damage, but the big difference is that it requires little or no extra strength to be wielded immediately, which allows you to use it right away without needing to raise this attribute much. What I like most about it is the sense of progress it brings. Leaving the trash weapons of the beginning and picking up a short sword completely changes your confidence in combat. You can handle trading blows with more security, you don't feel so fragile, and you start to feel that you are really evolving. It is the first moment when the game seems less hostile and more accessible. This weapon is also essential for learning and executing the first combat combos that you train with the trainers in the colony. Because it is light and easy to use, it allows you to practice the basic mechanics without getting frustrated by low damage or the difficulty of wielding heavy weapons. It's like the perfect training weapon for anyone starting to master melee combat. I put the short sword in 5th not because it has the highest damage in the ranking, but because it represents the first big step in your character's evolution. It balances accessibility, reasonable damage, and utility for learning well, and that makes all the difference in the initial progression of Gothic 1 Remake, especially for those who want to grow smoothly and constantly. The Arto sword takes 4th place in your ranking because it is an impressive leap in quality compared to previous weapons. With 65 damage, it already enters a completely different category from the early game swords, and belonging to Arto, an elite guard of the old camp, already says a lot about the power level it represents. Getting this sword early is an achievement that significantly changes the pace of your journey. What I like most about it is the exceptional physical reach that the length of the blade provides. In Gothic 1 Remake, range isn't just a number on paper. It changes how you position your character, how you enter and exit combat, and how much you can hit enemies while still at a relatively safe distance. With the Arto sword, you start to play with more intelligence and less desperation. This superior reach makes a huge difference against monsters that have fast and aggressive attacks. You can hit before them, interrupt attack animations, and maintain a comfortable space during the duel, which significantly reduces the damage you take. For a character who is still growing in attributes, this spacing advantage can literally be the difference between surviving or not. The Orc Hammer fits very well in 3rd place in your ranking because it solves a problem that almost every player faces at the beginning of Gothic 1 Remake: the excessive protection of certain enemies against blade weapons. With 50 crushing damage and requiring only 19 strength, it is already accessible early and brings a blunt force that really matters against difficult enemies. What I like most about this weapon is the fact that it is blunt, which means it ignores the high protection against blades that golems, skeletons, and other similar enemies possess. At the beginning of the game, when you don't have many options for special damage, this is huge. You finally manage to kill these monsters without needing absurd amounts of hits or potions. It's as if the game finally gave you a tool that actually works against them. This crushing characteristic completely changes the combat strategy. You can face golems and skeletons with more confidence, without worrying about burning through healing potions in every fight. The crushing damage makes a practical difference in every battle, and that saves resources, time, and of course, a lot of frustration. I put the Orc Hammer in third because, although it doesn't have the highest damage in the ranking, it has a strategic utility that few early weapons offer. It is the key to unlocking the difficulty of enemies that, without it, practically block you. For those who want to progress safely and efficiently at the beginning, this is one of the most important weapons you can get. The Lurker's Bite takes second place in your ranking because, for me, it is simply the best fair one-handed sword you can get at the beginning without needing cheats or unnecessary conflicts with the castle guards. It is extremely balanced, offering high slashing damage without requiring an absurd amount of strength, which allows you to use it early and efficiently, even in builds that don't focus entirely on heavy attributes. What I like most about it is the sense of power it brings against the game's initial fauna. Bloodflies, scavengers, and other common enemies are cleared instantly, which completely changes the rhythm of the fights. You aren't trading blows for long, exposing yourself, and getting frustrated anymore. The Lurker's Bite simply resolves the fastest and most repetitive encounters of the beginning with a few hits. This sword is also the best alternative for those who want to play cleanly, without cheating or trying to bypass the system to get better weapons too early. It is obtained legitimately within the game's logic, and yet delivers such high performance that it positions itself as almost an elite weapon for the beginning. This shows that it is the natural reward for those who explore and progress correctly. I put the Lurker's Bite in second because it combines high damage, strength accessibility, and practical utility against the most common enemies of the beginning. It isn't the first in the ranking, but it is that weapon that makes you feel that you are finally in control of the colony, capable of dominating basic enemies without excessive effort. For those who want a strong and fair start, it is practically indispensable. The Scar Sword takes first place in your ranking because it is, in fact, the most powerful one-handed weapon available in Chapter 1, with a devastating damage of 85. This value isn't just high on paper. In practice, it allows you to defeat almost any enemy or human at the beginning of the game with very few hits, turning long and dangerous combat into quick, controlled, and almost trivial encounters. What I like most about it is the sense of power it brings from the first use. With the Scar Sword, you literally change the difficulty of a large part of the initial fauna and the humans of the beginning. Scavengers, weak guards, and even many stronger enemies are eliminated with few hits. This drastically reduces the use of potions, speeds up your progression, and makes you feel like you are in control of the colony much sooner than the game would normally allow. The great challenge, and also the point that makes this weapon special, is that it belongs to Scar, one of Gomez's personal guards in the old camp castle. Getting this sword requires that you face or bypass Scar, which at the beginning of the game can be difficult and dangerous. It is a weapon that rewards those who are willing to take risks early and overcome a significant challenge, but it is not accessible to every player in a smooth way. I put the Scar Sword in first because, despite not being the easiest to obtain, it delivers the highest damage of the beginning and completely changes the combat experience. It is the weapon of pure power. It destroys enemies with brutal efficiency, allows you to dominate the colony from Chapter 1, and transforms many difficult encounters into easy fights. For those who want an extremely strong start and accept the challenge of getting it, it is simply the best choice possible.